Highland FM 107.1.
Hi everyone, welcome to our 9th episode, April. I think it's a while since we've introduced ourselves and I've got a feeling we have a few new listeners. So I'm Floss and this is my mate Lou. So
hello there.
Just so that you can recognise whose voices is whose and who's making the mistakes. Speaking of which...
Oh, don't. Oh, well, I just was a little bit worried in the last episode that I had given the impression that waterfowl, when they're molting, actually walk around naked with no feathers whatsoever. When I was explaining how they actually do lose a lot of feathers, it's in the wings and in the tails. It's not in the body. So when I said, oh yes, they've lost all their feathers, I just thought everyone might have this image of all these ducks waddling
Plucked
around,
chooks.
absolutely plucked to the nth.
That might explain why I couldn't find any photos of naked water birds.
No naked ducks.
So let's move on from that little embarrassment and we'll talk about some things that we've done this month. Well, one of the first things we did was we went up with a group of friends and we went to Avon Dam and Nepean Dam. We saw some nice birds up there, but in particular we saw a rock warbler, which is always exciting for us. We've talked about rock warblers briefly in a very early episode, but I think, again, we've got some new listeners and they may not have heard us talk about rock warblers. Rock warblers are a gorgeous little bird. They're the only endemic bird to New South Wales, meaning they're the only bird that we've got that only occurs here. And they only occur within a radius of 240 kilometres from Sydney. So they're really special. They, as you can imagine, like being near rock, and they particularly like Sydney sandstone or limestone, and usually near water. So do you want to have a go at describing a rock warbler for us, Lou?
Well, it's quite an ordinary looking bird, mid-size. It's sort of dark grey, but it's got red on its, not red, rufous, I would say, on its breast.
Yeah, I think cinnamon's the colour that...
Oh, cinnamon.
That's what appeals to me in terms of that description.
Well, and they're a discreet little bird that hops around on these sandstone rock platforms. It's a very specific habitat that they inhabit. I mean, you won't see them in heathland. You won't see them in rainforest. You only see them on these rock platforms. So we were very worried, weren't we, when the fires came through in 2019-20, given the amount of sandstone rocks there are in the forest
that were in the
burnt
fireground.
and burnt and burnt. And we really thought that these little creatures might not make it. But we've been very nicely surprised.
Yes, yeah. They like hopping around in those kind of little rock crevices and they're looking for insects. These are insectivores and they move very quietly and you won't see them unless you move very quietly too. They're very quick to nick off if they become aware of human activity. But
yes, I think it's best to actually find your rock platform, preferably an extensive one, because I think they need quite a bit of rock, and then hang out there.
Yeah,
and wait for them to come to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So some of the places where I have seen them that might give you some hints on where to go looking for rock warblers are along the Picton Weir Fire Trail, out the back of Lake Alex where there are some rock walls and ledges, along the Cave Creek walking track. They've come back since the fires there. We saw a large group there.
And in Moreton National Park, which burnt like a crisp, I saw them. You remember how excited I got? A bit
That's
hysterical.
Right. Yeah.
And I've seen them down at Talong.
Oh, right.
Yes, down there as I started to creep down towards the river. There were some really extensive areas of sandstone.
So keep your eye out for rock warblers, everybody. They're a beautiful little bird, and as you can appreciate, they're super special to our area. No one else has got them. So another place that we went for a bit of an adventure was we went over to the Robertson Rainforest, or the Robertson Nature Reserve, they call it. We were on our way to catch up with some friends. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, we popped into the Robertson Nature Reserve, which is a little patch of Robertson Rainforest out the back of Robbo. And it's a delightful little spot, Lou.
Yeah, it is. It's really sort of strange because we have so little real rainforest. And we were walking there just putting on what we thought would be, we had maybe, half an hour or something. And we walked about less than 100 meters before we said, oh, God, we better go back.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. It's so ethereal, I suppose, with all those lianas looping around, the darkness, the coolness, the ferns,
And there's
fungi.
Fungi, yes.
Yeah.
We'll talk a bit about fungi in a minute. There is so much to see in there. If you haven't been to the Robertson Rainforest, it's just a 500-metre track. And it's apparently wheelchair friendly. I think I wasn't thinking about that as I was doing it, but I think it probably is. The first
Might be a
100
little
metres
bumpy.
we did. And we were a little bit tantalised because we could see lots of butterflies right up in the canopy, and we couldn't get our binos onto them. They were too far away. But it's a lovely little spot.
No. I just remembered. Didn't we see Maclay?
Oh,
Yes, swallowtails.
Yes,
My
right
fave.
up high.
Yeah, really up high, a flowering, I don't know whether it was a tree or whether it was a climber, but it was in full flower. And it wasn't one Maclay. There were
Yes.
like a heap of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of research subsequently and learnt that the area there is a remnant of what was called Yarrawa brush, and that prior to European settlement, it covered approximately 2,500 hectares around that Robertson area, including the township. But we have cleared that area over time, and now there are only little remnant patches. There's the one that we went to, and there's another one that we went to a little while later out the back of this Robertson Cemetery. And there are patches now on private land. But the Robertson Environment Protection Society, REPS, is working toward maintaining the rainforest areas that are out there, but also enhancing them and increasing them. And they're doing a fantastic job.
They are an amazingly active group, aren't they?
They are. So they're doing all kinds of things. They do propagation of the rainforest plants in that area. They give advice to locals about the local plants and what are good to put in. They do weeding and education about what plants are weeds and what are rainforest plants. They do seed swapping. And they do work with a group that they've created called the Young Reps. But actually, I think, we'll talk about that in a tick. But first, we should go back to one or two things in the rainforest section. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. We were bemused as we were walking through the...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
This is
we
a real
saw something that was a
surprise.
mystery to both of us. Lou, do you want to talk about that?
Well, it was sort of at the side of the track on both sides, quite a lot of it. And it sort of looked like poo. But it didn't really look like poo. I mean, it was a bit squarish, a bit crumbly, and far too much of it. It would have been a host of pooers.
Yes.
And we could not understand what it was. And later, we were able to discover from
Our local poo expert.
our local reps expert, she told
Fiona,
us what
yeah.
it was. Do you want to tell?
I think you can. You got
Oh.
right into it.
I did. Well, it was a revelation. We were informed it was a worm, but not any old worm.
But
It
what we
was
were
an
seeing was
enormous
the worm poo.
No,
That was the actual worm.
no,
All right, explain, please.
it was the soil and debris from dead branches and trees that had been pushed up by the worm when he came up, or she came up at night, I believe.
Yes.
And these are the giant Robertson rainforest worm.
Right.
So, and it is like, it can be a metre long.
Yes, I've seen
And
photos.
fat.
So you're saying that the piles we saw are pushed up as it comes up
That's
to the
what
surface.
I assumed. Maybe we should. Yes.
Ooh, we might check with Fiona again before we publish this. I did do some further research on the Robertson giant earthworm, and there's not much information out there on Google. So if any of our listeners can tell us a whole lot more, and especially if they can supply us with some photos, can you contact us?
Of the worm, not the poo.
Yeah,
We've got
plenty of
pics
photos,
of the poo, which
is not poo.
poo.
Okay, so we left there and we went to a little meeting that we had with Fiona and the young reps from Robertson Primary School. We caught up with them and with Tristan from the local council. We met them at the Robertson Cemetery. Out the back of the cemetery there's another patch of rainforest, and this group of kids came to further their education about the rainforest plants and what else is in there.
They have a wonderful headmaster. Who,
Fantastic.
yeah, he's got a real ecological feel for educating young minds. I
Yes,
thought.
yeah, that was Gordon Parrish. I was very impressed with Gordon. They're a gorgeous group of kids, really keen and enthusiastic, but still, what a handful. And he had them all sorted and
There were
doing what they're
about
supposed to be
30
doing.
of them, or
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot.
So these are kids from grade 3 up to grade 6 who have volunteered to be part of the Young Reps group at the primary school. And Fiona King is helping to coordinate that group from Reps, and she has some volunteers that come along as well. On the day, Ash, one of the parents, came and joined us. And Tristan gave the kids and us, actually, some education about recognising some of the local weeds so that they can go back home to their gardens, or at the school they can recognise weeds that shouldn't be there and do something about their management. And then the kids and us went into the little patch of forest and started investigating and seeing what we could find in there.
didn't they have some trowels and some plastic bags? And the reason Tristan was there is you do need a license to take anything out of a sanctuary like that. You can't just go along. And so they were collecting a little bit of soil in the hope that they've got some rainforest seeds in there that they can take back and propagate.
Yes, so they're taking these bags of soil that they're going to put in trays when they get back to the school, and they're going to care for them and see what comes up.
They're just going to, I was amused, I thought, what a good idea. They're just going to take the soil. They can't actually see any seeds, right? But they're just going to water the soil and see what pops up.
Yeah, so that'll
Good
be
idea.
interesting. Hopefully
Yeah.
they'll keep us in the loop. We'll have to ask Fiona to let us know what develops with that. And Louise, you nearly brought home something from the rainforest as well.
Yeah, well, I wasn't looking for it, but it was looking for me. And I had a terrible itch as I came out of the forest on my inconsiderable belly. And sure enough, who had sliced a little piece out but a big leech?
Yeah, from her tummy.
And there's Floss going, hold it just there, so I can take a picture. And I'm going, I'm not going to hold it, I'm getting rid of it.
That is not how I remember it. I remember Lou saying, take a photo, and I was saying, I don't want a photo of your belly. Anyway, she whipped off the leech, and it has made me think we should actually do a little bit of a talk about leeches. So I promise in May I'll come back with some information for you all about leeches. They're not fun, and since we've been up in Robbo, we've both collected a few.
Yes, they do like rainforest in particular. Nice and wet and warm and dark, and with a nice mammal passing by.
That's right.
Stick insect. Do you remember the stick insect that the kids
Oh,
found?
yes. Yeah, wasn't that fabulous?
Yeah.
So one of the children brought to me a tiny stick insect. If you go and have a look at our Facebook page, if I haven't put up a photo already of the stick insect, I will. It was a really tiny little thing. The image that I'll put up has got a child's hand in a black glove. It's not an adult's hand, and that will give you some sense of scale. It was a beautiful little thing, and I haven't yet been able to establish what particular stick insect it is. It doesn't seem to be any of the common ones. So we're researching
It could just
that.
be a young one, because I think they just have
They start out
nips.
small.
They start out small, and then they shed their skeletons, their exoskeleton, and get bigger, and then shed, and then get bigger and bigger and
right.
bigger. So it may have been a little nymph.
A baby of something. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tail shape was kind of lumpier than I'm used to with any of the stick insects that I know, but
Was it curled
we'll
up?
see. Just slightly at the end, but it was more that it had almost nodules on it at intervals down the back of the tail.
I wonder if it was a leaf insect. You know, there are stick insects
yes.
and leaf insects.
Anyway, we'll get to the bottom of that and we'll keep everyone in the loop about that. So young reps do seed collection, propagation, nurturing of local endemic species, tree planting, reforestation, and they've got a gorgeous little area out the back of the school where they can do most of these activities. The school's been really supportive of this stuff, and we're very impressed.
We were impressed, and it was a beautiful little nursery there. Just
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was lovely. Next thing, what have I been seeing in my garden? I wanted to talk a little bit about a blue-banded bee visited me. It's the very first time that I have ever, to my knowledge, had a blue-banded bee in my garden. And for years and years I've been looking and looking, thinking, will I recognise one when I see it?
You
But
can't miss it, can you?
No, wow, there was no doubt about it.
Blue and black bands on the abdomen.
Yeah, and a gorgeous furry thorax, the chest. Oh, it was a beautiful thing. So I'm told that there are something like 25 subspecies of blue-banded bees, but this particular one was just slightly larger than a normal European bee. And I think that that's probably the one that we get around here. I don't really know much about that.
I think the ones I see are maybe just slightly smaller. Yeah, have you seen them going to sleep?
No, but I've heard
Yeah.
the males line up on a
Just
a
on
stem.
a stalk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they just hang on by their,
Their mandible, their
I was going to say
jaw.
teeth.
Jaw.
By their jaw, yes. And then they just hang there in lines.
Yeah, in a
Not
little
touching
group.
each other or anything.
Yes.
They don't talk to each other or anything like that. But they just hang there and they stay there all night. And then they
Yes.
take off in the day.
Yeah. So these, the blue-banded bees are an Australian native bee, and they're not hive bees. They kind of live as individuals.
And they don't sting, do they?
They have a sting, but they're not aggressive. That's what I've read.
Ah. So don't try squashing it, thinking that it's a wasp or something.
No, but you can't fail if you know, if your
It's
eyes are
beautiful.
alert. Yes, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
The females do nest in the ground or in mud or mud bricks or things like that. So I know some people are aware that wasps often nest in the ground, but just because an insect is coming out of the ground does not mean that it's a wasp. It might be a blue-banded bee. And I'm wanting to attract more of them to my garden. One is not enough. And I've read that plants that flower blue or purple are particular attractors.
I think I said before, mine this year was not as I expected on tomatoes, which after all have yellow flowers, but on comfrey.
Oh, right.
And they have purple and blue flowers.
Oh, there you
and they
go.
kept coming back.
Ah.
So I kept wanting to chop the comfrey
Comfrey
down
back.
and put it in the compost, but I didn't like to do it because I wanted the bee.
Well, the one individual that I saw was on a red and white salvia. But saying that reminds me that we should mention, while we're talking about these gorgeous things, that they have a special way of collecting pollen. That's a clue, yeah.
Sometimes you hear them before you see them.
Yeah. Do you want
Yeah.
to talk about that?
Yes, they're called buzz pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what exactly they vibrate. Wings?
Yes, it is
The
their
wings, and you can actually hear them going bzzz,
Oh,
bzzz,
wow. Gee.
and that shakes out the pollen
Yes.
out of the stamens.
Yes,
So they can-
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Smart. Eh?
Apparently this buzz pollination is called sonification. And the fact that you mentioned tomatoes was what brought it to mind. There are drives to try to get blue-banded bees doing more pollination of tomatoes
Oh,
because
right.
they're really perfect for the job, apparently.
Excellent.
Yeah. Quite a few of our native Australian flowers also require buzz pollination, such as hibbertia and senna. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those things properly.
Hibertia's, I have Hibertia. Okay, I'll get some more. What was the other? Senna.
Senna.
I've got senna.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
They're both bright yellow.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't the colour. I don't know.
yeah. My last interesting fact about blue-banded bees is that one of their threats is the neon cuckoo bee. So we've talked about cuckoos in birds who lay their eggs in other birds' nests, but bees have this problem too. The neon cuckoo bee will implant its eggs into blue-banded bees' nests, and instead of the expected blue-banded bee baby, out pops a neon cuckoo bee.
I'm not sure if I've seen a neon cuckoo. Is it?
I haven't.
Bright blue?
Oh, we're going too far out of my comfort zone here.
Yeah.
I don't
We must
know.
check them out.
I wanted to say that at this time of year, as it's getting cooler, we're all going to begin to have animals looking around for warmer places to spend the winter. And some of those animals are going to be rats, and some of them are going to get into our roof spaces. So we're going to put up just on our YouTube channel a little talk on rodenticides, what's safe, what's not safe, how best to manage rodents in your roof. Please check that out on YouTube. That'll be up by the time this show comes out. So things happening in the Highlands. Again, there's a whole lot, and I'm learning about more things all the time. So I'm not proposing to read absolutely everything that's going to be happening or all the details about it. We will again put up the calendar on our Facebook page for April so that you can go and check out more details about what's going on in the Highlands during April. So I'll just quickly have a look at a few and mention them briefly. On Friday the 5th, we're going to have the working bee at Picton Stone Quarry Creek Bush Tucker Reserve. On Saturday the 6th, there's going to be a glossy black cockatoo talk and a feed tree giveaway. I'll talk about that a bit more in detail. And then on Sunday the 7th, again a feed tree giveaway. That'll be at Bundanoon Market.
The first one's at Penrose, isn't it?
That's right.
I thought I might go to that.
Yeah, I'll come back and talk about glossies in a minute, I think. On Tuesday the 9th, there'll be the regular working bees at Berrima Wildlife Reserve. On Wednesday the 10th, there's going to be a movie screening of a film called Greenhouse by Juiced. I don't know very much about that, but you'll find details on the Wingecarribee Shire website. On Friday the 12th, Reps have a talk, the famous Reps, they'll be really famous now,
Yeah.
at Robertson from a gentleman called Graham Fifield who works with the landholders to help them access the Australian carbon market. There will be a particular group who are interested in that. Saturday the 13th, Friends of Thirlmere Lakes meet at Lake Coorjar at 9 o'clock. Saturday the 13th, also there's a koala corridor planting down in Canyon Lee. People down that end of the Highlands get down there. Monday the 15th, there's going to be a presentation about a book called Deep Listening to Nature, which will be of particular interest to bird lovers, and that will be at the Council Chambers at Moss Vale. The details will be on the Landcare Facebook site. Saturday the 20th, another koala corridor planting at Canyon Lee. Tuesday the 23rd, regular working bee at Berrima Wildlife Reserve. And that's the end of it for that month. So check out those things on our Facebook page or on everybody else's relevant Facebook pages. So I might come back to the glossy thing. I wanted to talk about that briefly. I put up a post on Facebook about glossy black cockatoos and it got quite a lot of interest. So I thought I would talk a little bit more about what's going on in the glossy black cockatoo world up here at the moment. As people know, glossy black cockatoos are vulnerable in New South Wales, and we are very fortunate in having a group up here, and we really want to protect them and make their lives a bit easier and hopefully actually increase the glossy black population in the Highlands. So there's a number of activities around glossy black cockatoos in the Highlands. One is the Glossies in the Mist identification project, where a number of people are collecting photographs of glossies that are seen locally, because we can actually identify individuals from their markings on their face. Glossy black cockatoos are, as you would imagine, black, and the females have yellow markings on their face, and those markings are unique to each female, so we can track females and where they're going if we get good photos. They're not to be confused with yellow-tailed black cockatoos who have a yellow tail and a yellow mark on their face. Glossy black cockatoos have a red tail or a red and yellow tail. So we're really interested at the moment. The glossies are going to start reproducing around now. They reproduce much later in the year than other birds and other hollow-using animals. They wait very politely for the hollow to be free, and then they nest in hollows. So we're really interested in where they are at the moment and whether they're going to be producing juveniles. Any glossy black sightings, please report them on the Department of Planning and Environment website. If you put in Department of Planning and Environment glossy black cockatoo reporting, you'll find their page and you can report sightings there. Or you can report them directly to us at flossandlou@gmail.com. And we're really interested to hear about sightings. We're going to have a gent coming down from another project in Queensland who's a gun at finding glossy nesting sites. And the more we're aware of glossies in the area, the more possibilities he's got for chasing down a site. The other part of the project is a big planting project for glossy black cockatoos. There's been a number of plantings. Various groups are propagating the feed trees for glossy black cockatoos, and we have got available about 1,000 trees at the moment for planting. So the handouts for those trees are, the first one is on the 6th of the 4th at Penrose Community Hall at 6:30. There'll be a talk there about glossy black cockatoos and a tree giveaway. And then on the 7th of April, there will be a tree giveaway, as I mentioned earlier, at the Bundanoon Market. If you can pop in any trees in your garden, please do, but we're also particularly interested in larger properties, and it's possible that we can arrange assistance with planting if that's needed. Again, contact me and I'll put you in contact with the right people to do that. The more feed trees we can put in, the better. Thank you. Okay, that'll do us. That was heaps of information this time. That'll do us for this month. You can find us on Highland FM at 8 p.m. on Monday nights or any time on their website under podcasts. You can find us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, where we add beautiful photos that go along with the audio. The photos make it there.
Absolutely love it.
It's lovely. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Different stuff goes on over there on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're only checking us out on YouTube or on podcasts, you're missing out on some of our information. Our email address is flossandlou@gmail.com. Thank you to Highland FM for sponsoring us this month. The Going Wild in the Highlands team included Adam, Warren, Harrison, and the inimitable Louise Docker, who is now the third leg of our rickety stool. And thank you to all of our contributing photographers, Alan, the two Louises, Linda, Nigel, Mustafa, Anna, Jenny, Tony, Jeff, and Angela. Thank you all. See you next month.
And keep getting out there and looking. There's so much on.